October 3, 1934, Harlem smelled of smoke before the sun even rose. A warehouse on 133rd Street, Bumpy Johnson's main policy bank headquarters, exploded in flames at 3:17 a.m. Gasoline-soaked rags, Molotovs through every window, the roar of fire swallowing $400,000 in cash, ledgers, adding machines, and the dreams of hundreds of Harlem families who played their daily numbers with Bumpy. Dutch Schultz's men did it. They stood across the street in long coats, watching the blaze reflect in their eyes, laughing like schoolboys who just burned down a rival's treehouse. They thought they'd crippled Harlem's king. They thought wrong. 72 hours later, every major Schultz operation in the Bronx and Manhattan was ashes. Gambling dens, speakeasies, beer trucks, warehouses, even his favorite restaurant on Park Avenue reduced to blackened skeletons. Dutch Schultz didn't just lose money. He lost everything. And the man who took it all never raised his voice. He just lit the match. The fire started fast and professional. 3 of Schultz's torch men, Jimmy Torch Malone, Frankie Bones, and a kid named Rico, poured 5 gallons of gasoline around the perimeter, tossed bottles through windows, and waited. The warehouse belonged to Bumpy Johnson, the rising black numbers banker who refused to pay tribute to white gangsters. Dutch had sent warnings, Bumpy sent back silence. Silence meant disrespect in Dutch's world. So they burned it. By dawn, the street was cordoned off. Firefighters gave up. The loss was catastrophic, $400,000 cash gone, but worse, every betting slip, every runner's ledger, every family's hope for next week's rent. Word reached Bumpy at his apartment on Edgecombe Avenue before 6 a.m. He stood at the window, watching the distant smoke rise over Harlem. Didn't curse, didn't shout. Just said quietly to his lieutenant Junie Bayard, 72 hours, that's all they get. By 8 a.m., Bumpy's inner circle gathered in a back room above the Theresa Hotel. No panic, no revenge speeches. Just maps, ledgers, and names. Bumpy spoke softly. Dutch thinks fire answers everything. We'll show him fire answers nothing when it's returned tenfold. He listed targets, every Schultz spot Harlem runners had mapped for years. The Bronx Brewery on Webster Avenue. The Numbers Bank on Fordham Road. The Speakeasy on 149th. The Trucking Garage in Mott Haven. The Park Avenue restaurant. Dutch loved his office. Each had a runner, a guard, a weak door. Bumpy assigned teams, no guns in daylight, no witnesses. Clean, fast, final. Noon, the Bronx Brewery. 2 of Bumpy's men dressed as delivery drivers walked in with crates marked Schultz beer. Inside, gasoline drums disguised as kegs. They set timers, walked out. At 12:47 p.m. the building erupted. Beer vats ruptured, flames raced across wooden floors. The night shift still inside barely escaped. Dutch got the call while eating lunch, threw his plate against the wall. Hit back harder. Midnight, Fordham Road. Bumpy's team cut the phone lines first. Then the locks. Inside, stacks of policy slips, cash boxes, adding machines. They didn't rob it. They soaked every ledger, every bill, every machine. Lit it. By 1:15 a.m., the building was an orange torch visible for miles. Dutch's phone rang again. He screamed at his men. Find Johnson, kill him. But Bumpy was already 3 moves ahead. 3 a.m. 149th Street. The Speakeasy was packed, musicians, drinkers, Dutch's guards drinking on the house. Bumpy's men waited across the street until closing. Then 3 men in overcoats walked up, poured gasoline under the back door, through basement windows. Lit. Flames shot up the dumbwaiter shaft, panic inside, people trampled each other to escape. The building collapsed in under 20 minutes. Dutch's empire was hemorrhaging. Noon the next day. Mott Haven Garage, where Dutch's beer trucks were loaded. Bumpy's crew had scouted it for months. They arrived as workers broke for lunch. Slipped in through a side door. Slashed fuel lines on every truck. Poured gasoline across the floor. Lit. 20 trucks burned like torches in a row. The explosion shook the neighborhood. Dutch's drivers quit on the spot. His supply chain was dead. Evening, Park Avenue. Dutch's favorite steakhouse, his unofficial headquarters where he met politicians and fixed judges. Bumpy sent his best, Junie and two others. They entered as customers. Ordered, ate slowly. When the place quieted, they slipped into the kitchen. Gasoline in the grease traps, in the dumbwaiter on the curtains. They walked out calmly. At 9:42 p.m., the restaurant became a pillar of fire. Windows blew out, chandeliers melted. Dutch was inside having dinner. He escaped in his underwear screaming. His empire was gone. By the 72nd hour, the empire Dutch Schultz had built on blood, beer, and brute force lay in smoking ruins. No more armored trucks rumbling through the Bronx. No more safe houses stocked with cash and cut men. No more runners collecting from terrified policy bankers. And worst of all, no more respect. His own soldiers had started vanishing into the night. First one, then 5, then a dozen. They slipped away with whatever pockets they could fill, whispering that the Dutchman had finally pushed too far. His old allies, the ones who once nodded at his table, now looked the other way. Even the crooked cops who'd taken his envelopes stopped answering the phone. The commission had spoken in quiet rooms far from Harlem. Lucky Luciano, Frank Costello, Mayor Lansky, men who played chess while Dutch played with matches. They saw the headlines, the heat from Thomas Dewey's prosecutors, the endless bodies piling up in the numbers war. Dutch had become a liability, a loud, reckless flame that threatened to burn the whole syndicate down. They didn't need to say it twice. He was done. But Harlem remembered the real ending differently. Not the machine gun symphony that cut him down weeks later on October 23, 1935 in the dim bathroom of the Palace Chop House in Newark. Not the dying rants he muttered in his hospital bed about the boss and the heat. No, Harlem remembered the fire. It started subtle, then roared. Warehouses where Dutch stashed bootleg liquor torched in the dead of night, flames licking the sky like accusations. Tenements and storefronts he used as cutout fronts for his Harlem collections, gutted by blaze after blaze, leaving only charred beams and the acrid stink of defeat. Trucks he'd parked in hidden lots, reduced to twisted metal skeletons, tires melted into the pavement. Bumpy never claimed a single spark. He didn't need to brag in bars or newspapers. He didn't send telegrams like Stephanie St. Clair once did. Every smoldering ruin was his quiet signature, etched in ash across the city. The message spread faster than any headline. You come into Harlem with guns and greed. You threaten our mothers, our churches, our children's futures. You try to burn us down to take what's ours. We burn back. Harder. Cleaner. And we don't stop until your world is cinders. In those final 12 hours of the 72-hour inferno, Dutch's remaining men watched their boss unravel. He paced empty rooms, screaming at ghosts, clutching a pistol no one feared anymore. His empire, once the terror of New York, had been reduced to echoes and embers. Harlem rebuilt. Block by block. Stronger. Prouder. The numbers game flowed again, but now under eyes that had stared down the devil and won. And from that day forward, no white gangster, Italian, Jewish, Irish, none ever dared light a match in Harlem without remembering the lesson carved in those flames. When you burn a king's house, he doesn't shout. He doesn't threaten. He doesn't negotiate. He simply lights his own. And in 72 hours, he turns your entire world to ashes and legend. The throne stayed black. The street stayed Harlem's. And Dutch Schultz, he faded into a footnote, while Bumpy's shadow grew longer, quieter, unbreakable. Here's the man who lit the match and walked away untouched. And the Harlem he defended, rebuilt, resilient, forever his. Some kings roar. Bumpy just burned fire.